Okay, today we are going to do the third installment of multiplying polynomials. In part 3, we will use either the distributive property or the box method in order to multiply polynomials. In the first two examples, or in the first two parts of multiplying polynomials, we used the FOIL method, but in this case the FOIL method will not work, but I'm going to give you two other strategies that will work. So let's get started. Here's our first example. We have a binomial of 2x plus 5 being multiplied by a trinomial of negative 2x squared minus 7x plus 5. And we are going to use the distributive property. In the example it says multiply the following polynomials using the distributive property, then simplify. So when you distribute, you want to multiply each term in each polynomial by each other. So we need to multiply the 2x times the negative 2x squared. And I'm going to write it down. Then I'm going to put parentheses around it and group it. Then we need to multiply the 2x times the negative 7x, write it down and put parentheses around it and group it. Then the 2x times a positive 5, put it in parentheses and group it, multiply. Now we need to do the same thing with the positive 5 in that binomial. So positive 5 times a negative 2x squared, a positive 5 times a negative 7x, and a positive 5 times the other positive 5. And now we have multiplied each term in the binomial by each term in the trinomial. Okay, so let's take all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's take those 6 groupings and simplify them now. So 2x times a negative 2x squared would be negative 4x to the third. Then 2x times a negative 7x, you multiply the 2 and the negative 7, you would get negative 14. And then you multiply the x times the x and you get x squared, so minus 14x squared. Then the 2x times 5, 2 times 5 is 10, so plus 10x. Then a 5 times a negative 2x squared would be 5 times a negative 2 would be negative 10x squared. And then 5 times a negative 7x would be negative 35x. And then 5 times 5 is 25. And while we have simplified them, we could do it one more step. And what we're going to do is we're going to put all the like terms in order. So we have a negative 4x to the third, and there is nothing else with the power of 3, and 3 is the biggest power. We're going to start with that one. So negative 4x to the third. Then we're going to look for something with the power of 2. Well, I see we have a negative 14x squared, and we have a negative 10x squared. So I am going to rewrite them, minus 14x squared minus 10x squared. Then I'm going to look for something with a power of x to the first, or just x. And I have a positive 10x and a negative 35x. So I'm going to rewrite them next to each other. And then we have, last but not least, the constant of just 25. So I'll write plus 25. And now, our final step is we are going to take those and simplify them, so combine like terms, so that we have one term of each exponent. So we'll start with a negative 4x to the third minus 24x squared minus 25x plus 25. And we got the negative 24x squared from negative 14 minus 10. And we got the negative 25x from positive 10x minus 35x. And that would be your answer. So when you use the distributive property to multiply a binomial by a trinomial, that's how you do it. It's not hard, but it can get confusing if you don't write everything down and aren't pretty clear. So you really want to make sure that you take your time and write all the pieces down. Okay, why don't you pause the computer, make sure you get this problem down, because you might use it in the future. Okay, let's move on to the second example, in which case we're going to use a different method. In our second example, in example 8, it says multiply the following polynomials using the box method, then simplify. So the box method is a different method, and you could multiply binomials, you could multiply trinomials, you could multiply anything using a box method. And I personally think it's a little bit easier, but it's your choice as to which one you want to use. So in the box method, you make a box. And the way that the box is made, because if we have a binomial, the 3x minus 4, we need two different boxes for each one of those terms. So I'm going to put a 3x in the top and then negative 4 in the bottom. And then the trinomial, x squared plus 8x minus 7, each term is going to go above one of the boxes going horizontally. So x squared, then plus 8x, then minus 7. And now what we're going to do is we are going to fill in the box with the answer of each of these multiplication problems. So 3x times x squared is going to be 3x to the third power. And then we're going to do a negative 4 times our x squared and put that answer in the bottom left box, and that would be a negative 4x squared. Then we're going to go the top middle box, and we're going to multiply a 3x times an 8x, and you would get plus 24x. Notice that I'm writing in there, in each box, I'm writing the sign, whether it's a plus or a minus sign. That's really important, and it'll help you later on not to get confused. In the bottom middle box, we're going to multiply a negative 4 times a positive 8x, which would give us minus 32x. In the top right box, we're going to multiply 3x times negative 7, and you get negative 21x. And then in the bottom right-hand box, you would multiply a negative 4 times a negative 7 and get positive 28. So we have done all of our multiplication in this box, and it's a lot neater than the distributive property, in my opinion. Your choice, though. So now we're going to look at our like terms. We have 3x to the third, so I'm going to write that down because there's only one that has an exponent to the third. We have our negative 4x squared and our positive 24x squared. And if you'll notice, the like terms are all on diagonals. So I'm going to rewrite them. Negative 4x squared plus 24x squared. And then I'm going to look for my next set of terms. It would be a negative 32x and a negative 21x. Again, on the diagonal. And it's set up that way. That's why the box method helps. And then the final one is our positive 28. We write our positive 28. And the last step that we're going to do is we're going to combine our like terms. So we have 3x to the third plus 20x minus 53x plus 28. And that is how you multiply polynomials using the box method. Okay, the box method is also, well, no, we'll get to that in a little bit. And that's how you do it. So you have distributive property or you have the box method, your choice of which one you want to use. Why don't you pause the computer, write this example down, and then on the next slide, we're going to do 4 examples. So here are your 4 examples, and I want you to solve these using either the distributive property or the box method. It's your choice. And when you're done with these, either show your teacher or bring them into class tomorrow. If you do find yourself confused, go back and watch the examples again 2 or 3 more times, because it usually takes about 5 times of seeing something before it makes sense. Okay, so if you are struggling with that, don't just stop and give up. Go back and watch it again. Have a little patience. I know you can do this. Have a good day. Talk to you later.